You know what happens at 2:47 a.m. when you can't sleep. Your mind replays every failure on an endless loop. That presentation where your voice cracked, the business idea you never launched, the relationship you sabotaged because you were too afraid they'd leave first. You lie there, chest tight, telling yourself the same lie. I'm just not built for risk. But here's what's actually happening. Your brain has developed a fear architecture so sophisticated that it doesn't just protect you from failure anymore. It protects you from trying. And the cost? You're living a life designed entirely around what you won't do rather than what you could become. While most people treat fear of failure as a personality flaw, something you're supposed to overcome through motivation or positive thinking, a small number of people have discovered something radically different. They've learned to work with a principle that psychologists call failure inoculation, and it doesn't eliminate fear. It rewires how your nervous system responds to it. But there's a catch. This only works if you're willing to fail deliberately, in precisely calibrated doses, for exactly 21 days. Before I show you how this works, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment with the last thing you avoided doing because you were afraid of failing. This helps me tremendously and shows you're genuinely committed to building a different relationship with fear. Let's begin. Elena was 28 years old when she realized she'd spent 6 years preparing for a life she never started living. She worked as a graphic designer at a marketing agency, competent, reliable, never the first to volunteer, but never the last to deliver. And every single night she opened the folder on her desktop labeled Personal Projects and stared at the same half-finished designs for the freelance business she kept promising herself she'd launch. The pattern was always identical. Sunday evenings, she'd feel a surge of possibility and update her portfolio website or draft an email to a potential client. Then Monday would arrive. Someone at the agency would give feedback on her work. Just one comment. "I'm not sure this captures the brand essence." And Elena's hands would start trembling. Just enough that by Tuesday, the freelance folder stayed closed. By Wednesday, she'd convinced herself that staying employed was the smart, responsible choice. Her best friend Maya had stopped asking about the business. Her parents had stopped mentioning it entirely. But the truth was darker than that. Elena knew she had the skills. She'd won 2 industry awards. The problem wasn't competence. The problem was that every time she imagined putting her name on something, her actual name, not hidden behind an agency brand, her throat would tighten and her mind would flood with scenes of catastrophic failure. The breaking point came on a Tuesday in March. Elena's creative director called her into his office to discuss a growth opportunity. For exactly 4 seconds, her heart raced. Then he explained they were bringing in a junior designer, and Elena would be training her replacement while Elena herself moved into more strategic coordination work. Translation: less creative control, same salary. She smiled. She nodded. Then she walked to the bathroom, locked herself in a stall, and pressed her forehead against the cold metal divider. The voice in her head was clear. "You did this to yourself. You've been so afraid of failing on your own terms that you've failed on theirs instead." That night, Elena typed 5 words into her browser. How to stop fearing failure. Buried in the 3rd page of results, she found a research paper from Yale University. The title made her pause. Controlled exposure to micro-failures, reconditioning the fear response in achievement-oriented adults. She read until 3 a.m. And for the first time in 6 years, the tightness in her chest wasn't panic. It was something that felt dangerously close to hope. Dr. Reeves didn't look like someone who studied failure for a living. At 62, she had the relaxed demeanor of someone who'd made peace with uncertainty decades ago. When Elena arrived for their first session, the psychologist was watering a dying fern. "It's been dying for 2 years. Dr. Reeves said without looking up. "I keep watering it anyway. Sit down." Elena sat. She had prepared a whole speech, but Dr. Reeves spoke first. Tell me what happens in your body the moment before you quit on something you care about. The specificity of the question caught Elena off guard. My body? Not your thoughts, your physical sensations. Elena closed her eyes. My hands get cold. My chest gets tight, like there's a band around my ribs. My breathing gets shallow, and there's this feeling in my stomach, like I'm about to fall. And when you avoid the thing, when you close the laptop or distract yourself, what happens to those sensations? They go away, almost immediately. Right. Dr. Reeves leaned back. You're not broken, Elena. Your nervous system has learned that failure equals danger, not intellectual danger, primitive, survival-level danger. The same circuitry that keeps you from walking off a cliff is now keeping you from sending an email. And every time you avoid the thing and feel that relief, you're teaching your brain that it made the right call. Elena had heard versions of this before. So I just need to push through it, right? Dr. Reeves smiled. That's what everyone tries. And it works exactly once. Then you hit a setback. The fear comes back twice as strong, and now you've confirmed that you can't handle it. No, what you need is failure inoculation. Failure inoculation. Think of it like exposure therapy. You don't overcome a fear of heights by jumping off a building. You start with a step stool. We're going to do the same thing with failure, but deliberately, in a way that retrains your threat detection system. Dr. Reeves pulled out a notebook. For the next 21 days, you're going to fail at something small every single day, not accidentally, intentionally, and you're going to pay attention to what happens in your body when you do. Wait, intentionally fail? Anything, as long as it meets 3 criteria. Dr. Reeves held up 3 fingers. 1, the failure must be public or semi-public. 2, it must be in a domain you care about. 3, it must be small enough that it won't derail your life, but significant enough that it triggers that physical response. Elena stared at her. You want me to fail at something I care about in front of people every day for 3 weeks. I want you to practice failing. There's a difference. Right now, your nervous system thinks failure is a catastrophe. We're going to teach it that failure is data. Dr. Reeves tore out a page. Here's your assignment for tomorrow. Post 1 piece of your design work online. Don't polish it. Don't add a disclaimer. Just post it. Then sit with whatever happens for 6 hours. Notice how your body responds. Eleanor took the paper. Her hands were already cold. One more thing, Dr. Reeves said. You will want to do this perfectly. Resist that urge. The point isn't to fail well. The point is to survive failing badly and notice you're still here. Elena walked to her car and pulled out her phone. She opened Instagram and found a logo design from the week before. It was fine, not great. The kerning was off. She didn't fix it. She just typed, trying something new. Her thumb hovered over the share button for 47 seconds. Then she posted it and immediately locked her phone like it was burning her hand. Day 1 felt like jumping out of a plane. Elena kept her phone in her bag for 6 hours, and every 15 minutes her hand would drift toward it before she forced herself to stop. At 4 p.m. she finally looked. 11 likes, 3 comments. 1 was from a stranger. Interesting concept, but the spacing feels uneven. The comment punched her exactly where she expected. But 30 minutes later, she was still alive, still employed. The world had not ended. She'd received mildly critical feedback on imperfect work, and the catastrophe her nervous system had predicted simply didn't materialize. Elena wrote in her notes, hands cold for 20 minutes, chest tight for maybe 45 minutes. Then I got hungry and made lunch and forgot to be afraid. The fear had a time limit. Day 2, she sent a cold email to a local non-profit. 4 sentences. Hit send before she could stop herself. The response, thanks for reaching out. Unfortunately, we're working with another designer right now. Clear rejection? Elena's stomach dropped, but the sensation lasted 11 minutes. She timed it. 11 minutes, then it faded. By day 5, the pattern was visible. Each time the fear response triggered, it passed. A Stanford University behavioral psychologist who has studied decision-making for 20 years found that when you repeatedly pair a feared stimulus with a non-catastrophic outcome, the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, gradually recalibrates. Your brain learns to classify the stimulus differently. Day 7 brought a bigger test. She posted a design on LinkedIn, first draft of a rebrand concept. Feedback welcome. A former colleague commented, "Elena, I'm surprised you're posting unfinished work. This doesn't feel up to your usual standard." The old script kicked in. Delete the post, apologize, explain. But she'd promised Dr. Reeves she'd sit with it, so she left it up. By noon, 3 other people had commented with actual design feedback. By 3 p.m., a stranger messaged her, "Hey, I run a small startup and we need help with brand identity. Saw your work. Would you be open to chatting?" Elena stared at the message for 5 full minutes. The discomfort of the critical comment had unlocked something unexpected: opportunity. She scheduled the call. Day 11 arrived with an email from the startup founder. He wanted to move forward. He had a budget. He wanted a proposal by Friday. And for the first time since starting the protocol, Elena felt something worse than fear of failure. Fear of success. Wednesday night, she sat at her laptop. She'd written 2 sentences in 40 minutes. She needed to research more. She should probably just tell him she wasn't ready. Her phone buzzed. Dr. Reeves. "If you're spiraling, come to my office tomorrow at 8 a.m. Elena showed up exhausted. Dr. Reeves said, "Tell me what you're afraid of right now." "I'm afraid I'll send him the proposal and he'll realize I'm not good enough." "And then what happens?" "Then he'll cancel the project." "And then?" "Then I'll have failed." Dr. Reeves nodded. "For the last 10 days, you've been practicing small failures. But this feels different because it is different. This is a threshold fear, a fear at the boundary between who you've been and who you're trying to become." She pulled out a different notebook. "There's a second principle you need. In Japanese martial arts, there's a concept called zanshin, sustained awareness. You don't tense up in anticipation. You don't collapse afterward. You maintain equilibrium through the entire sequence. I don't understand how that applies to sending a proposal. Because right now, you're trying to control the outcome. You're trying to engineer a proposal so good that failure becomes impossible. But zanshin would be, send the proposal, stay present with whatever response comes, and remain in motion regardless. Your job isn't to prevent failure. Your job is to stay in the conversation." Something unlocked in Elena's chest. Permission to be imperfect and still proceed. That afternoon, she wrote the proposal in 90 minutes. It wasn't her best work, but it was honest and complete. She sent it at 4:47 p.m. The founder responded at 9 p.m. "This is great. A few questions. Can we hop on a call Friday?" Her hands were shaking when she typed, "Yes, Friday works." But this time, the shaking didn't stop her. Day 16 nearly ended everything. The call went well. They agreed on terms. Elena spent the weekend creating concepts, 3 logo directions, working 12-hour days, riding the high of finally doing it. Monday morning, the founder replied, "Thanks for this. I think there might be a misalignment on vision. These feel safe. We're looking for something that disrupts the category more. Can you take another pass?" The words, "feel safe," hit her like a physical blow. The spiral started immediately. Of course they feel safe, because you play it safe with everything. You're not ready. You are never ready. She closed her laptop. She didn't respond. She called in sick and spent Tuesday in bed, confirming every fear her nervous system had been warning her about. Wednesday afternoon, Dr. Reeves called. "You didn't show up for our check-in." "What happened?" Elena explained. "I can't do this." There was a long pause. "Good. Good. You just hit the most important part. This is where most people quit. Not because the method doesn't work, but because they think stumbling means failing. When you posted that logo on day 1, what happened?" "I felt afraid, and then it passed." "Right. But this time, you got critical feedback from someone whose opinion matters, and instead of letting the fear pass, you made it mean something about your entire identity. You turned a stumble into evidence that you should stop walking." Dr. Reeves's voice softened. "There's a difference between stumbling and falling. When you stumble, you lose balance for a moment. When you fall, you stop moving completely. You've stumbled, but if you don't respond to that email, you will have fallen." According to researchers at University College London who study resilience, setbacks don't erase progress. They test the neural pathways you've been building. One stumble doesn't delete those connections. That evening, Elena reopened her laptop. She wrote back, "Thanks for the feedback. You're right. I was playing it cautious. Give me 48 hours to push the concepts further." She spent 2 days creating work that scared her. Bold typography, unexpected colors. When she sent it Thursday night, her heart was pounding, but her hands weren't shaking. Friday morning, "Now we're talking. Let's move forward with direction 2. She'd stumbled, then kept walking, and the world hadn't ended. 3 months later, Elena was in the same coffee shop where she used to fantasize about quitting. But now her laptop showed a client invoice, her 4th client. The startup had led to a referral. The referral had led to another project, and somewhere in the repetition of sending proposals, receiving feedback, revising, and staying in motion, something fundamental had shifted. She no longer identified as someone trying to build a freelance business. She simply was someone who did freelance design work. It wasn't about confidence. She still felt nervous before client calls. It was about identity. The fear no longer stopped her because being afraid while doing the work had become normal. A Harvard Medical School neuroscientist who has studied neuroplasticity for over 2 decades explains that the brain creates permanent changes through repeated pattern exposure. When you consistently pair a feared stimulus with a non-catastrophic outcome, the amygdala's threat model updates. This takes 8 to 12 weeks of consistent exposure. You're not eliminating the fear circuitry. You're teaching it to fire less intensely and resolve more quickly. That's what had happened to Elena. She'd completed the 21-day protocol, then kept going. The protocol had ended. The practice had integrated. When she met with Dr. Reeves, the psychologist asked, "What would you attempt if you knew you'd fail at it?" Elena thought for a moment. "I've been thinking about teaching, running design workshops, but I'm not qualified. I've only been freelancing for 3 months." Dr. Reeves smiled. "You didn't say I can't. You said I'm not qualified yet. Do you hear the difference?" Elena did. The old script was, "I am inherently incapable." The new script was, "I don't have this skill yet, but skills can be built." The 21-day protocol wasn't about eliminating fear, Dr. Reeves said. It was about proving to your nervous system that you can function while afraid. Most people wait to feel ready. But courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the willingness to stay in motion while the fear is present. That night, Elena created an outline for a design workshop. She had no credentials as a teacher, but she posted about it on LinkedIn. "First time offering this. We'll probably make mistakes. Let's learn together." 12 people registered in the first week. 6 months later, she quit her agency job. Not dramatically, but calmly. Her manager asked if she was sure. Elena said yes. Not because she was certain she'd succeed, because she'd learned that certainty wasn't required to proceed. 1 year after that first sleepless night, Elena had 8 regular clients, a wait list for her workshops, and something more valuable than validation. She'd stopped measuring her worth by whether people approved of her work. Some clients loved what she created. Some didn't. Both outcomes gave her information. Neither destroyed her. She'd started mentoring a former workshop student, a 35-year-old accountant named David, transitioning into UX design. She had him do a modified failure protocol. Week 6, he told her. I posted a redesign and someone commented that it was amateurish, and I just didn't die. I thanked them and asked what specifically felt amateur. They actually gave me useful feedback. Elena understood exactly what he meant. The protocol wasn't magic. It was repeated proof that the catastrophe your nervous system predicts never quite arrives. Criticism stings. Rejection is uncomfortable, but discomfort isn't danger. And once your body learns that distinction, you stop organizing your life around avoidance. A Yale University study that tracked adults learning new skills over 5 years found that the primary predictor of sustained success wasn't talent or resources, it was failure tolerance. People who could attempt, fail, adjust, and reattempt without existential collapse were 17 times more likely to achieve their long-term goals. The mechanism isn't psychological resilience, it's physiological adaptation. Your nervous system literally recalibrates what it classifies as threat. Standing in front of her workshop, someone asked, "But what if you practice failing and you still fail?" Elena smiled. Then you've answered the question you've been most afraid to ask. You learn that you can survive professional failure and still be a person worth knowing. That's the whole point. You're not trying to engineer a life where failure never happens. You're building a nervous system that can handle failure when it does. After class, David lingered. I start my new UX job next week. I'm terrified. Good, Elena said. That means it matters. Go be terrified and do it anyway. She still got nervous before client presentations. She still felt the cold hands and tight chest when she posted work publicly. But she'd learned to interpret those sensations differently. Not as warnings to stop, as signals that she was attempting something worth doing. Her phone buzzed. Dr. Reeves. Remember, you're not teaching people to stop being afraid. You're teaching them to stop waiting for the fear to leave before they start living. Elena typed back, I know, because you taught me the same thing. Tomorrow, she'd start work on a proposal for a client, twice the size of any she'd worked with before. She had no idea if she'd get it, but she knew what she'd do either way. Send the proposal, stay present with the response, and remain in motion. Zanshin. Sustained. Awareness. That was the lesson. And it had taken 21 days to learn and 365 days to integrate. But now it was hers. Which brings us to you. Right now, you're somewhere between where Elena started and where she ended up. Maybe you're still at 2:47 a.m., replaying failures, avoiding risks, organizing your life around what you won't attempt. Here's what I want you to know. Your fear isn't a character flaw. It's a prediction error. Your nervous system has been working with incomplete data, classifying professional risk as survival threat. And every time you've avoided something, you've confirmed that prediction. But you can retrain the system, not by thinking differently, not by one heroic burst, but by practicing failure in tiny doses until your nervous system reclassifies the stimulus. Here's your challenge. For the next 21 days, fail at something small every single day. Post imperfect work. Send a risky email. Introduce yourself to someone who intimidates you. Do the thing that makes your hands go cold. Then sit with the discomfort and notice when it passes. You don't need perfect conditions. You just need one microscopic failure per day for 3 weeks. So small, you'll think it's pointless. So consistent, your nervous system can't ignore it. In 21 days, you could still be here. Still preparing. Still waiting. Or you could be 21 micro-failures into rebuilding your relationship with risk, understanding that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's moving while the fear is present. The failure protocol. Intentional daily failure, public or semi-public, small enough to survive, significant enough to trigger your nervous system. Zanshin, sustained awareness, not control. Stumbling is not falling, continuation is everything. If this video changed your perspective, comment below with the last thing you avoided because you were afraid of failing. Don't tell me your plan, just tell me the one thing you've been avoiding. Writing it publicly is the first micro-failure, and it counts. I'll read every comment, and in 3 weeks, I'll return to see who followed through. If you've watched this far, thank you. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to start. Tomorrow. Day 1. One small failure, then another. See you in the next video. And remember, fear isn't the enemy. Waiting for it to leave is.